We are recording. Wow. I'm back, everybody. Steve Grillo, AftershockXL is back in a new studio here in Las Vegas at Hammerhead Studios. You will understand that if you can look up at the wall. There's a beautiful Hammerhead hanging above the studio, and we are at Hammerhead Studios. Grillo's AftershockXL is back. I'm still a little mush-mouthed, getting used to talking back into the microphone. Very famous microphone I'm talking into right now, but I just wanted to give everybody a little update. I am back. We are building out a new studios. Yeah, I got mush mouth, man. I'm gonna roll with it. I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let all the mistakes come out because I have to get back. It's like you're an athlete. You got to start all over again. This is spring training for me. I'm jumping back in the mix. I'm gonna have my Aftershock XL YouTube channel up. This is where this is going, and I thought it was appropriate that I have somebody on that's a fellow author. Everybody knows that I wrote a book called Gorilla Parts about not only my adventures on the Howard Stern Show, but many adventures in my life that people aren't aware of. I've lived a very interesting life, and I thought I'd share the stories. My book came about just because I was tired of people telling me, you need to tell these stories in a book. And I had a very good friend of mine by the name of Russ Brunelli who would relentlessly pursue me writing a book for, I don't know, 25 years of write a book, write a book, write a book. So I wrote a book, Gorilla Parts, and it's not just my story about Howard Stern, but it's my story about my awesome family, friends, and the adventures that I've had with so many different aspects of what happened in my life. It's just, I don't think that anybody would ever believe them. That's why I started a journal back when I worked on the show. And that's why I wrote a book, because the stories I have are epic and legendary. And I wanted to share them with the world. And I hope if you did not get the book that you would go to Amazon or Audible and order it, because the reviews alone on Amazon, if you look at them, they're pretty outstanding. Of course, you always get the one jerk off Howard Stern guy that's going to write something horrible that he didn't even read the book. You know, he's going to look. I knew that was going to happen when you put yourself out there. You should always expect somebody saying something stupid. And once you get over that, life is a lot easier. So I worked hard on the book with Jason Huza, who was an amazing co-writer and a confidant and a great friend. He took my words and stories and made them legitimate and put them on paper. And I just want to say thank you to Jason and his family for putting up with me for over a year. And now we have the launch of Grillo's Aftershock XL. What is it? What do you, how do you say? Times two? What is it? I don't know. We're back. I've had a lot of requests to have the show come back. All those people that asked, I always appreciate that very much. So with that all being said, getting it out of the way, I thought it would be appropriate for two reasons to have my next guest. A, he wrote the foreword to my book, and B, he is a author, and he's been a writer for probably 30 years. He's had his own magazines before. He's been a guest on the Howard Stern Show and a legendary staple at Scores Strip Club in New York, which is famous. He's just not only just a writer and a very good person, he's also, I consider, a very dear friend. Everybody, the author of the upcoming book, Rebels, Rockers, and Icons, 30 years of music and Q's and A's. We got Mr. Chauncey Hayden, everybody. Welcome, Chauncey, all the way from Ireland, the beautiful country of Ireland.
You've been here. You've experienced my casa here in Monaghan.
Yes, I one of the best trips I've ever taken to my life was to Ireland, to a very good friend of mine, Ryan's birthday. I got to visit my friend Tara, and all the different things that I had going on at that point. I had to make a special trip to Monaghan to go
You
see my old
did.
friend Chauncey Hayden, because
You did.
your story with your daughter I want to get to, but first I want to talk about your book, because that's the most important thing. But your story is amazing about how you rekindled your relationship or started a relationship with your
Started
daughter,
it. Yeah.
Poppy.
When I moved here, we didn't know each other. Like I've never met her, and she never met me, and it's quite a story of reinventing myself and redemption and changing my life and changing who I am as a person. All that had to happen, and It did happen, and it's a miracle. And now I'm a dad in a little tiny village in Monaghan Island.
Oh, if anybody follows Chauncey on any of the social media, you find that he is a very good dad, and he came
My
a
daughter
long
may
way to
argue
find
with
his.
that.
What's that?
My daughter may dispute that, but okay.
Yeah,
No,
I've met Poppy. She was kind of shy and aloof, and she also what she wanted to trick me, and she was going to speak Gaelic and pretend she didn't speak English. Was that her plan?
yeah, yeah. She goes to an all Gaelic school where they're only allowed to speak Gaelic. There's no English allowed. So that's really her, almost her first language is Gaelic.
Is that
So
right next to the Somali school?
yeah, well, now
Sorry, dude.
Ireland's changing a little
Well,
bit.
I want to get into that too a little later because as
Yeah,
soon as we talk politics, everybody's going to leave anyway. But I
yeah.
want to talk about your past.
Hmm.
You had Stepping Out magazine for how many years?
30. Well, no,
And
that's no, I'm sorry, 20 years with stepping out, and then I left to start a new magazine called Metropolis Nights. So 30 years total of publishing magazines. Yeah.
that's quite the resume. I always like I didn't know how you did it because I know you personally, and I don't know how you pulled that shit
I
off.
don't either. I really don't know. It was every week, every single week. But luckily, the timing was right and was before social media, and you needed every town, everywhere needed a magazine, a local magazine, to tell the latest news about entertainment and where the bands were going to play and all that good stuff. And it was just a big money maker, and it was a big demand for it. And it was a great run for 3 decades. And of course, social media came along, and nobody needed magazines anymore.
It's
Anything,
very true.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
out here in Las Vegas, and there used to be. I got to stop the ums. I'm so rusty. This is a great way to get my momentum back because I can't say all the time because I am. It's just like you got to get back on the horse, but you got to start all over again. So I'm kind of a little bit of a mushmouth thing. I'm getting warmed
Don't
up a little bit
worry.
here, so
You're
bear
being
with me.
you. You're just being you. People love
Yeah.
Steve Grillo, and you are you. So just be you.
I am being me, but I'm trying to be a little professional here. Anyway, Chauncey started out at Stepping Out magazine. Were you a contributing writer? Were you a staff writer?
Oh, well, I'll give you the short condensed version of how I started there. I had a traumatic head injury. I had a concussion.
No kidding.
Yeah, that explains a lot of things, doesn't it? And I had trouble speaking. I had trouble walking, and I started taking art classes and drawing to try to get my brain wired back properly again. And I became obsessed with Sinead O'Connor. If you remember that iconic Rolling Stone cover where she has these beautiful doe eyes and that little black turtleneck and bald head, and I was
I, I
obsessed.
I was attracted. I was specifically attracted to the short hair. Any
Yeah,
girl that has a
me too.
beautiful face that will shave her head, the confidence level is through the roof, which makes her that much sexier.
And you got to have the face to pull it off, and she did.
Yeah.
She looked like I've never seen anyone look like that before, and I was obsessed. So I started painting her and drawing her, and my whole apartment was just pictures and paintings of Sinead O'Connor. And then one day I
The
learned
Fed
she was
showed
going.
up.
What's that?
One day
What?
the Fed showed up.
No, well, it was almost like that. It really was. And then one day learned she was going to be playing at the Garden State Arts Center, now called the PNC Arts Center, but back then the Garden State in New Jersey. And I said, "Oh my God, I got to go see her perform." And I said, "Wait a minute, why just see her perform? Why don't you try and meet her? How am I going to meet Sinead O'Connor? I know there's got to be a way." And so there was a new magazine that started. It was only like 10 pages, like a little flyer with the weather on the cover. And it was called Stepping Out. And I went to the bar across the street and I took scissors, cut out the logo, scotch taped it to a piece of typing paper. And then this is before email. All we had was faxes. Faxes were like technology. So I typed up a letter to a publicist and I said, I'm a journalist and I want to put on the cover of this magazine and the magazine's seen all over the world. It would be amazing. And I never thought I'd hear back. And about a day later, the publicist calls me back and says she would love to do the cover. Is this a global magazine? I say, yes, it's in
Yeah.
Australia, it's in England, it's in China, Russia. And I think at the time it was in like 10 bars in New Jersey, and it was like 10 pages thick. So she agreed, and I couldn't believe it. She said, "Going to go, will call, and you're going to pick up your press pass, and you're going to meet her an hour before the show." And I'm driving down the Garden State Parkway, thinking, "Well, I guess I should kill her." Like, I mean, that's what you do, right? When you're a crazed stalker, you bring
Wait,
a
wait,
knife.
whoa. Back up a second. Back. You were driving
Yeah.
down the Garden State Parkway, and you were going to meet Sinead O'Connor, and you thought about killing her.
Well, yes. I said, I'm so obsessed with her. I'm like, well, this is it. This is like, I can't even process it. I need just to cut her throat, and that would be like Chapman with Lennon.
Whoa, all right, now, 1 second. Now,
Yeah,
let's back up a little further.
yeah.
What fucking traumatic brain injury did you have that you became the psycho killing stalk motherfucker?
Well, that's another story. This little girl I was dating, she was like 90 pounds, tried to throw her knee over my head on a dare, and she missed, and she hit me square in the forehead and cracked my skull open like a peanut. That's what happened to me. That's how I broke my head.
You're a real
So
egghead. I'd like,
yeah. Oh, and
like,
then the day I got out of the hospital, the doctor said, "Don't bump your head for 6 months. Don't even leave your house." The day I got out of the hospital, I went to plug in stereo speakers under my bed, and my elbow pulled the wire down from the ceiling, and the speaker fell and landed on my head. And I was back in the hospital like an hour after I got out. So,
I'm
so it,
sorry, that's fucking funny.
yeah, I was in the hospital for like a month with 2 traumatic brain injuries back to back within hours.
My
It was
God.
crazy. So I was really messed up. So,
Yeah.
so so I'm driving down the parkway, and I'm having all these crazy thoughts, and then it dawned on me. I said, why don't you actually interview her? Did you ever think of that? Plan B, interview her. And I
Oh
went
my
to
God, that's insane. That was your
I
plan
pulled
B.
off the road. I pulled off the road. I went to a Radio Shack, and I bought those cassette players and a cassette. And I said, "Just ask her questions. Just do it. Do it." And so I met her. She
Oh
she
my
was so
God.
nice and beautiful, and I asked her a bunch of questions. And that was the night that she refused to sing if they played the Star Spangled Banner before the concert. It was right when the Gulf War started, and America, we weren't divided then. Everybody was patriotic. And she said, "I'm not going to sing if you played Star Spangled Banner." And Frank Sinatra said, "If I ever meet him, I'm going to kick her in the ass."
Yeah.
So we both wanted to hurt Sinead O'Connor, me and Sinatra. And so I had the interview. I came home, and I actually called the magazine, the editor, and I said, "Hey, do you want this interview with Sinead O'Connor?" And he said, "You have an interview with her?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I can only pay you $25 for it, but I'll put your name on the cover, and I'll make it a cover story." And I said, "Sold." And the next week, Sinead O'Connor was on the cover, stepping out, interviewed by Chauncey Hayden. And all of a sudden, because of the scandal that she wouldn't sing, and we had the only interview, the whole world was calling the magazine to
Oh,
say,
wow.
"How did you get this interview? Who's this guy, Chauncey Hayden? That's amazing that you got backstage. And can we quote him? Can we talk to him on the radio? Can he be on TV to discuss?" So I was like, I became famous overnight. And the
Meanwhile, you're
guy
like
stepping,
Berkowitz.
yeah, and meanwhile I'm a psychopath. I'm like Chapman, Mark David Chapman, and
You got scrambled eggs for brains.
yeah, we talk. I talked worse than you are now. So, I had to. That's an old story. So, yeah, so the editor says, "Hey, can you? This is amazing. Our advertising has tripled. Can you do this every week?" And I said, "Yeah, you just send a fax and they say yes, and you put somebody on the cover, and it's easy." And so from that day on, every single week for the rest of my life, I did a celebrity interview.
That is a sick story. I thought, my story getting involved with Howard, which of course is in the book, but not that I'm just keep dropping shit about the book, but it was kind of, I guess it was kind of stalkery, but not with your way. I didn't
You didn't
intend to
want to kill
kill Howard
Howard?
when I
You
got
weren't
up
going to
there.
kill him?
So, but I had a similar, weird. I was young, and it just happened to fall into place at the right time. I heard where the address was. I happened to be going to school about 10 blocks away from the radio station, and then one day I just when I heard the address, I literally got up in the middle of class and I walked down to Madison Avenue, and there I was at 600 Madison on the fourth floor, standing in the lobby when I was just listening to the radio show, and it blew my mind that this actually just happened, and I had to get past that front door. And I guess it was sort of like a Chauncey Hayden Berkowitz moment where I
Yeah.
wouldn't give up until I got past the door. But I had that burning desire to make sure that I got into that radio station no matter
You,
what.
Steve, I think anyone who is successful or even ends up doing something that they have a passion for, love to do, have similar stories. It's very easy to take another path. A lot of my friends were accountants and lawyers and or worked for the town health department, whatever. Everybody had a different career that was pretty standard. The people that go outside the box and do the things that don't make sense that nobody else would ever do are the ones that usually become very successful. And when I say successful, I don't even mean money wise. I mean having a love for what you do in life. And those are the people that get those kind of careers. I tell Poppy that, my daughter, all the time. You got to follow your dream and think outside the box and chase things because nothing comes to you. You got to chase it and try to catch it. And
She's got
that's
the
what people like us
personality.
do.
You better be careful because, like, she has the personality. She could be like the cover girl for Ireland. She's got the red hair and the freckles and the cute
Yeah,
smile. Like, she's like,
yeah.
she could be like on a stamp or something for Ireland.
She could, and
Hurry
she's
up
so.
before it turns like
Uh,
different color, you know?
oh, and now she's discovered boys now, which is terrifying. So now I got to walk
Grandpa
around with a base.
Chauncey.
I got to walk around with a bat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Listen, girls, boys, everybody at that age is going to start exploring and feeling funny things. And you're a parent now.
Oh,
Got to
she's
deal
going
with
to
it.
a dance in 2 weeks, and I'm literally going to sit in the parking lot in my car with a metal pipe, and I'm not leaving. I'm dropping her off and staying there and eating
Oh my God.
Chinese food.
Does she get embarrassed because you have this horrible Jersey accent?
Yeah, she does. She gets very embarrassed. She gets embarrassed by me every day.
Okay, so I would tell us a little about the book because I want to
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to get to Rebels, Rockers, and Icons. You have is this like you went back and reviewed some of your stock footage of all the things you did, and you just went over and
Yeah,
listen? It's just as hard as writing a book, like going over and finding all these great interviews you did
yeah.
with. That was is this just rock and roll people, or is this celebrities?
No, no, no. But this particular, I've had two other books with just one with just comedians and one with just kind of famous people. This is the third of the trilogy, and this one is strictly music, all music from hip hop, country western, rock and roll, metal, punk rock, uh,
Out of those five
electronic.
categories, off the top of your head, from those five categories,
Yeah.
who is your favorite or the biggest ones that you interviewed?
Oh, they're all so cool, and I
Or go
guess
to
a lot
hip
of it.
hop. Let's go to hip hop. Who's
Oh,
off the top of your head your favorite?
hip hop. Naughty by Nature is in the book, and they were really cool. Trying to think who
Or
else from the hip
country?
hop.
Country.
Oh, country. Gretchen Wilson was great. Crystal Gale.
Okay.
Uh,
What about rock and roll?
a lot of guys. James
No, no,
Hetfield.
just one off the top of your head. In the book, your
Mhm.
favorite interview, top of your head, rock and roll.
Well, my favorite interview in the book was probably Ted Nugent because and he was awesome. He's just
He's a
such a fun
character.
guy to talk to. He really is, and I could have talked to him forever.
All
And
right, punk rock.
James Brown was also awesome.
Oh, you. How long was your interview with James Brown? Is the whole thing in the book?
Yeah, the whole thing. Every interview is unfiltered. The entire interview for each person that I spoke to. There's over 73 or 74 interviews in the book,
Why?
and
Why James Brown? What was so interesting? What did he
uh,
reveal anything that he didn't reveal?
the Godfather of Soul, man. He's the one that Michael Jackson copied as far as dancing go. James Brown is one of the guys that influenced everybody, and just trying to transcribe the interview. Whenever I think of
Yeah.
James Brown, I think of, being so excited to talk to this icon. And then the reality is you have to sit in front of a computer screen and transcribe what he's saying. And have you ever heard James Brown speak?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a whole
it's
other language.
It's just like, well, man, and you say, so James,
Yeah.
what got you
We're
involved
getting
in
in the
music?
hot tub. Too hot.
And I'm trying to write that down, like, but man,
Yeah.
it
You're gonna
just
get a forensic
sounds.
analyst
Oh,
to like transcribe the whole thing.
oh my God! I had to use AI for that to say, please tell me
Oh
what he's
my God.
saying.
You should do that. Oh my, that would be funny. To transcribe the exact interview in James Brown language. That would be awesome.
Well, a lot of it is, I try. I didn't change the way they answer questions. I kind of kept it real throughout the whole thing. Even Leslie West is in it. I mean,
Oh,
and
Leslie
who's in
West,
it?
what a sweetheart.
Yeah, and
Anybody
Frank
doesn't know
Stallone.
Leslie West? He was in the band called Mountain. He played at Woodstock, and I guess Mississippi Queen. For those people that wouldn't know exactly who Leslie West was, he was
Yeah,
a gigantic personality, a gigantic man. There was a reason why they called the band Mountain because he was a mountain of a man. And he was a regular guest on the Howard Stern show, and I was lucky enough to meet him a bunch of times. He always remembered my name. He always came back in the office and sat down with us. And he had diabetes, and so
lost
does
his
my
leg.
mother.
Yeah.
And he always remembered and came every time he came in. He said, "How's mom doing?" And I'll never forget that. Leslie West was a gentleman and a kind soul and an extremely talented musician, but also a very big ego. Like if he was on stage, he was the only guy on stage. Everybody else was just garbage. When I understand, but so. Damn, I was going to ask you a question about that. So, all right, when did James Brown reveal anything in the interview that maybe he didn't reveal to anybody else?
He talked a lot about his crimes, which I thought was fascinating. He talked about all the things he was arrested for. I mean, he took a shotgun and fired it into his wife's car while she was in it. You know, he was amazing. He was so honest and raw about his life and about racism and the things that you got to remember how old he was. He grew up in Jim Crow,
Yeah,
there were places that would not let him go through the front door. He would perform in clubs, and he had to go through the kitchen and stay in the kitchen. He couldn't even go out into the main room because he was black. So he talked a lot about that, which I thought was pretty interesting. I mean, there's people like Tom Jones, uh,
who had
Iggy
more
Pop.
ass in a toilet seat.
Oh my God! And what a sick people that are younger than us don't realize what an idol. Like women would throw their bras up on the stage. He would go home at
Yeah,
night with hundreds and
I,
hundreds of bras.
he's one of those guys that, like, I look at him and I'm like, I don't get it. But a woman, he's a panty dropper. Like, I don't get it. I do have a funny story. I just want to touch on James Brown for one
Yeah,
more second. But
sure.
the story is a little difficult because there's a word that's involved that we can't, say as white people. But I know for a fact that this is a genuine James Brown story because the person that was involved in the story was the music director for I think the Grammys that one year that James Brown was performing, and that person was in his office, and James Brown came storming in, and he was like, "What the hell is the deal with those white dancers in my show? Ain't nobody white in my show." He was like, "My limo driver's black, my limo's black, my doctor's black, my lawyer's black, my plane is black." And the
That
person
sounds
looked
like
at me
James
and goes,
Brown.
What about your pilot?" He goes, "Oh, no, no, I ain't gonna let no N-word fly my plane."
Yeah,
And that's just
that's
always one of my
awesome.
favorite James Brown. Oh no, 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 my pilot's white. But
That's awesome.
that's a true James Brown story coming from the exact source. I don't want to reveal that person's name. Well, James
Oh, I
Brown
can
is
hear.
dead, but
I believe that. That sounds like James Brown. It's
yeah, yeah,
one
yeah.
of the
He's
one
about
of the
everything's black except my pilot.
well, one of the funny stories from the book is my interview with Joan Jett. So I'm going to interview Joan Jett, and one of the guys I work with tells me as I'm heading into the city to sit down with her, he says, "I got to ask her about being a lesbian." And I said, "She's never said she's a lesbian." He goes, "No, no, she came out in a Rolling Stone article a year ago, and she came out and said she's a lesbian. That would be a good subject to bring up." I'm like, "Oh wow, I didn't know that. Thanks." So I'm sitting down with Joan Jett, and the interview's going great. And I said, "So tell me about the Rolling Stone article where you came out for the first time and said that you're a lesbian." And she looked at me like, "What the fuck are you talking about? I never said I was gay. I never told Rolling Stone I was a lesbian." I remember just sitting there wanting to strangle this person that told me to ask that question. And, and it was the
Probably giggling
first,
like a schoolgirl in the corner.
yeah, it was the first time in any interview that Joan Jett addressed being gay was with me in the article that I did. So that's in the book too. And the whole awkwardness of that question is there. There's a lot of awkward questions in the book. There really are. Oko Ono, I talked to and asked her about breaking up the Beatles. And that's an awkward conversation. There's just a lot of awkwardness throughout the whole book.
And,
A
and,
lot, a
and
lot of funny moments too.
I'm sure you can get the book on Amazon, correct?
It's going to be out next week, Steve. It's not out
Okay.
yet, but it comes out in a week and it
Well,
will
give a
be on
date because I'm
Amazon.
not sure when I'm gonna. I don't know when this is gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna put this up
Okay.
today or if I want to chop it up and make it into little bits and pieces. I'm
Okay.
starting a new leaf here. Unfortunately, I used to be just a talent, but now I got to do everything, and I got to stick a broom up my ass and sweep too. I'm doing the lighting. I'm doing the StreamYard. I used to have my boy Noah, but Noah got married and had a kid, so he had to get a job. But now I have to do everything. So I'm learning everything as I go. So I'm gonna either chop this up or put it up in its full entirety
Okay.
on YouTube, and then I got to get an RSS. There's all this crap that I got to deal with. So, but Joan
You'll do
Jett,
it.
I was lucky enough. There used to be a big recording studio in Hell's Kitchen. I don't know if you remember the Hit Factory.
I
It's,
had many parties there.
yes, okay, so you know where I'm talking about.
Yes.
And it was where Born to Run was recorded, Madonna like a
Michael
Virgin,
Jackson
Michael Jackson's
recorded there.
Thriller. They actually built his
Yeah.
own little elevator for his limos, so he didn't have to get out. So now I was lucky enough.
Springsteen performed there. He
Yes,
recorded there. Yep.
and became the Gibson Guitar Showroom, where I had a very good
Right.
friend that was involved there. We threw parties there. And it was also recording and rehearsal space. Actually, it stopped recording. It was a rehearsal space. Like a lot of the bands from Saturday Night Live would go there and rehearse before they did Saturday Night Live.
Mhm.
And I had all access to there. It was like I had the keys to there. It was a wonderful time. It was so much
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, I remember
And
that. Yeah.
one day I walked in, and then there's Chris Novoselic walking out. And I go, oh, Chris Novoselic is the bassist for Nirvana, if anybody doesn't know who that is. And I was like, oh my God, you're Chris. And he's like, hi, nice to meet you. Like this kind of goofy, really friendly guy. And he's
Yeah.
big. And I was like, oh my God. Then all of a sudden, Dave Grohl's there. And I was like, oh my God. Nirvana, listen, the Foo Fighters is one of the best concerts I've ever seen. And Dave
Mhm.
Grohl is amazing. If you just keep his mouth shut politically, but that's another story. Anyway, Dave Grohl was super friendly, and there's always that loaded question: are you a Howard Stern fan? And he was like, absolutely, and he knew who I was. He gave me a big hug. They were rehearsing to do the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
Wow.
and I got to sit there and watch my own personal Nirvana concert. Pat Smear was singing all of Kurt Cobain. He was singing. He has a very similar voice to Kurt,
Mhm.
and I asked Dave Grohl, like I said, it was basically a closed set. Like nobody's supposed to be there. And I snuck in and I asked Dave, he was playing drums and I could see him through the door. He goes, if anybody bothers you, knock on the door. So I sat there and I got to watch my own personal Nirvana concert. And for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Joan Jett was singing Sweet Child of Mine. So all of a
Wow.
sudden, I'm standing there and Joan Jett comes walking past me and I'm like, oh my God, that's Joan Jett. And she's tiny little thing,
She's
you
so
know?
tiny. She's
She's so
adorable
tiny.
too.
She's such a little tough badass. She's so
Yes.
sexy. So as she walks by, this big roadie type guy goes into the bathroom right next to the studio, and he's in there for about 10, 15 minutes, and he comes out. And then Joan Jett comes, and she's standing next to me, and we're both watching Nirvana perform, and she's like fidgety. And I go, well, what's wrong with you? She's like, I have to learn Sweet Child of Mine in like 24 hours. I'm like, so she goes, well, I'm nervous. I'm like, you're fucking Joan Jett. What the hell are you nervous about? I was like, don't worry, you got this. And she goes, is that the bathroom? And she goes in the bathroom and she comes out like 2 seconds later. She's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Somebody took a shit and didn't flush. And it was that big roadie. He dropped the giant deuce and didn't flush the toilet. And Joe J came out completely
Oh,
disgusted. I was like, this is probably
that's
the coolest
disgusting.
moment of my life right now.
Oh God.
So
Ugh.
what was that? So what was that? So Yoko Ono was awkward when you asked her about the Beatles, what she should fess up to because she did ruin the Beatles. and has zero musical talent. I don't know how she ever got to where she was based on A, the way she looks, and B, the way she sings. And I don't know what John Lennon saw in her. We I think we have a mutual friend, May Pang.
I've interviewed May Pang. I almost put her in the
Yes.
book, but it just was too off center to put her in the book.
Yeah.
She's
Well,
in my first book.
if you're a true Beatles fan, you know who May Pang is. She
Yeah.
was John Lennon's secretary, correct? Or assistant?
Yeah, she was his assistant. Yeah.
And she was she still is beautiful. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
May is absolutely beautiful. But when she was like probably like in her early 20s, she was a
Mhm.
hot piece of Asian ass.
Yeah.
And I guess Yoko Ono was trying to be liberal and be like, "Oh, John, you can feel free to go fuck anybody you want."
Yeah.
So John started fucking May Pang and started falling for her.
They
If
said
I'm
she
wrong,
said
let
for a
me know.
year. She said, "Go out with May Pang for a year and then come back to me. Get out of your system." So he did. He went to LA with May Pang, and that was like kind of his new wife for a little while.
And then he started to fall for her, and Yoko
Yeah.
Ono said, "No, no, no, no."
Yeah. May Pang's fascinating. She has a lot of great stories.
Yeah.
This is another great story from the book. So David Lee Roth, right? We all know David Lee from Van Halen. So I had an interview scheduled with him, and I had designed the cover, sent it to the printer because the covers always went out before the inside. And right before the interview, his publicist calls and says, "Dave's not going to do it. He changed his mind. He's not going to do the interview." I'm like, "You can't do that to me. I've already printed the cover." And he said, "Sorry, man. He's just not going to do it." I said, "No, you know what? That's okay. That's fine because I have a gossip column at Scores in New York City. And what I'll do instead, I'll interview all the girls he banged at Scores, and we'll make that the story and all the inside, like sex life and all how he doesn't take a bath and he uses, just rocks instead of soap and all that
Yeah,
stuff."
you can't get it up with a string.
About a half hour later, David Lee Roth calls me and goes, "Dude, let's do the interview. Come on, let's do it."
Yeah.
So,
All those filthy stories about David Lee and Scores.
oh yeah, but you had to be. A lot of these times I'd be very creative how I got these interviews. But I'm so happy that I held on to them all these years, and I could go back now. And you know what, Steve, is fascinating. People say, well, a lot of them are old interviews, but that's the beauty of it, is that it's a time capsule. So we go back to 1990, and as you read these interviews through the years, through the decades, it also reminds you of what was going on politically, socially at the time, because a lot of the questions are geared around the temperature of the country and even of the world at that time. So it's kind of fun to get this feedback from them of days gone by. It's just
Well,
fascinating.
it's an evolution too of social standings because like there was no social media and the interviews as technology must have gone along in your long career, the interviews must have changed a little bit due to the internet and the computer and how things got so public and everything. It must be an
Yeah.
interesting evolution of interviews based on that social media fact.
Well, Steve, the art of interviewing has died. You make a very good point, because people don't need to do interviews anymore because of social media. Like a guy like I don't know, Tommy Lee or someone, they they all have social media accounts. They're all on TikTok, Instagram, X, and anything they want to say, any political thoughts they have, any thoughts they have about other bands, they put it out there as piecemeal throughout the year. So you read an interview with them, and it's kind of bullshit. There's no reason for it. It's just promoting. Now it's just to promote an album or promote something, a movie. Back then, when I did these interviews, they were vomiting information, things that they needed to get out because there was no other way to get out how they felt about things. So they would just go off on everything. And maybe at the end you gave a plug for whatever they were pushing, but otherwise it was just one thing after another, like machine gun fire of all the things they felt.
How do you not bring up that he drove a boat with his penis?
Oh, we did bring that up with Tommy Lee. We
Yeah.
we talk about the sex tape. We talk about a lot. Tommy Lee's a great interview. How he drank two bottles of vodka a day was his diet. That's what, for years he lived on 2 bottles of vodka a day. Not the little ones, the big ones.
Yeah.
The giant bottles every day for 2 years. That's all he did in coke. and it's amazing he's alive. Same thing with Nikki Sixx. He's in the book, and he's even worse. His drug use was out of control, and he actually wrote a book about it, The Heroin
He
Diaries,
died,
which is an
didn't he?
awesome book. No, Nikki Sixx is alive.
No, I'm saying he died while doing his drug
Oh
overdose.
yeah, yeah,
Didn't he
no,
flatline?
yes, yeah, he was clinically dead. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And poor
So,
Mick Mars, who's the worst off out of all of them, really didn't party that hard.
no, and in fact, Mick Mars came into the room when I was talking to Tommy Lee. Mick Mars came in and sat down and I said, "Do you want to join the interview?" He goes, "No, man, I'm just listening. Tommy makes me laugh." He goes, "Whenever I hear Tommy do an interview, I laugh." He goes, "I just want to listen and laugh." So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, but did you put that in the interview? Say at this point, Mick Mars comes in the
Yeah,
room.
yeah, that's actually because I actually did that a lot throughout the book. Whenever something would happen, I would literally say, "At this point, this is happening or that's happening,"
Oh,
and
that's
so
so awesome! It makes it so much better to read that because
you feel you're there. You
yeah,
feel you're in
yeah,
the room. But every interview, you feel like you're in the room. It's really such an amazing book, and you know. If everybody loves music, everybody, there's going to be someone in this. Even Poppy. Poppy is 13 years old, my daughter, and I said, Poppy, from the list of people in this book, tell me who you know. She knew about 60% of the people in the book, and she's 13, and she could tell you about these people. So
was it because of you? Do you think if she was living in Ireland without you, she would know, or was that
oh,
your influence?
nothing to do with me. Nothing to do.
Yeah.
It's just because, and again, it goes back to social media. A lot of their songs, these songs that these people made, the music they made, is so iconic that when you go on TikTok, a lot of people use their music to promote their own personal videos. Shows like Stranger Things has Tiffany. Remember Tiffany? I think we're
Oh
alone
yeah, I think
now.
we're
That
alone
doesn't have to
now.
be. And that's the theme song for Stranger Things this year, the most popular show on TV.
Yeah.
So these young kids are exposed to these songs. Know what my daughter's favorite song is? The Clash. Should I stay or should I go?
Oh, I
Poppy's
thought it was
13.
I thought it was like I like big butts.
No,
But
no, it wasn't that. No, no, she's into should I stay or should I go by the Clash? And so when she learned that Joe Strummer is in my book, like she's like, "You
okay,
got Joe Strummer in your book? You interviewed Joe Strummer?" I'm like, "How
yeah.
do you even know?" I said, "I saw him in concert in 1981."
Suddenly she stopped making
your
fun of your
mother,
bad
your mother
accent.
wasn't born yet. I go, how could you know Joe Strummer? And she does. She
That's
does.
great. Well, that's there's always plus and minuses about the internet because now you could also discover things that you probably wouldn't normally discover when you're in a different generation. Like for us in the 80s and 90s, it was like when I discovered like the music from the 50s. It was like whoa. It was all the stuff that cousin Brucey did on all the oldies stations, and now our songs are the old stations, which is horrible. And these people are the other generations are be able to discover these things so much easier based
Yeah.
on they could just it's all at your fingertips, it's right
So
here.
you go to YouTube and you can type in anything and anything is available. So everyone's exposed to everything. And there's good and bad to it, but I think the good part of it is that things never die now. Music stays alive. People that created great things, no matter what it is, they stay alive because of the internet.
Yeah.
And I only wish that I could eliminate 90% of what's written about me on the internet. you know, like my daughter Googles me, goes, "Dad, what the fuck?" you know,
For
I,
fuck's sake.
I said, Poppy, I said, most of it's not true. I swear. Ask me. Whenever you read anything crazy about me, ask me, and I'll tell you. I'll be honest and tell you what's true and what's not.
Yeah, well, just so everybody knows, just a refresher, Chauncey's live from Monaghan in Ireland right now,
Mhm.
and he moved there to be a dad.
Be that.
Explain the story a little bit. I know
Yeah.
there's the long version, but I
Yeah.
know because you told me that basically you found out that you were a dad, and then you went to Ireland to find your daughter.
Hmm.
They didn't make it easy for you,
No.
but you being a strong person with a big heart made sure that you fought the system and got custody of your daughter. Give a little explanation about that real quick.
If
Not that
it,
it's quick, but it's
yeah,
important.
no, I'll tell you shortly. If it was a movie, it would be Rocky and my cousin Vinny combined. you
Okay.
know,
But
It
by
was
the way, I explained this. I had dinner. Wendy, the Snapple lady, lives out here. If anybody
okay.
doesn't remember Wendy, she was like the first spokesman for Snapple iced tea back in the late '90s, early 2000s, and she got canned for no reason because they went corporate. So she's out here, and I told her the story about you and your daughter, and she was like literally in tears.
Yeah, well, it is that kind of story. It truly is. When I came, I listen, for the first 4 years of my daughter's life, I was living in New York, Jersey City, actually, not New York, Jersey City, same thing, and working as a gossip reporter and journalist. I was doing Fox News and CNN and all these things, doing my career, doing what I do. But I'd lay in bed at night with so much guilt, knowing that I had a child living in Ireland and I wasn't there. I was living in Jersey City. And I would reach out to the mom all the time and say, please, please, let me have contact. Let her know I'm her dad. Let her know I exist. And
Like a decent human being should.
yeah, they weren't having it. They weren't having it. So I had to make a decision. So what I did, I one day I booked a one-way flight to Dublin, and with a backpack and a toothbrush, and I flew here to Ireland. I took a bus to Monaghan, not knowing where I was going or what this place was like. And it's a little tiny town. Well, you saw it. It's like two streets.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's little. It's little. So I came here, and the first thing I did was walk into the courthouse and say, I have a child here. I'm her dad. What do I have to sign? What do I have to do to be her dad? And they said, well, you start with a court date and fill out this paperwork. We'll sign you a court date. And from that day on, for the next 2.5 years, I was in court every month, fighting, trying to prove to a judge that I should be a dad, that I could be a good dad. And because it's such a small town, everyone knows everyone. Everyone in town knew the
Well,
story.
you ask anybody from Ireland, when you mention Monaghan, they say, "Oh, all those people in Monaghan, they know how to talk." Like
Yeah.
Monaghan
Well, we're a
apparently is the
border
gossip
town.
central of Ireland.
That's right. And we're on the border of Northern Ireland. So it's like IRA Central. So you know, I just kept plugging away and fighting. And I saw my daughter in town almost daily because it's such a small town, and I
And
couldn't
you
let
couldn't
her.
say anything to her.
I couldn't say anything. She didn't know who I was. I couldn't say anything. I just looked at it, and tears would come out of my eyes. And then finally, I
That's
was
got to be
granted.
so hard, bro.
It
Oh
was
my
so it
God.
was so hard. It was so hard. And then uh, and you're looking at your own face looking back at you, your blood, your flesh and blood, and you can't say anything. So finally the judge granted visitation, but she still didn't know why or who I was. Just a guy with a funny accent that she had to meet for an hour
She was your
every.
new Sinead O'Connor.
Yeah, well, no, I never thought about
Yeah.
killing her. So I'll tell you that, and this is the true story, and this is going to make you laugh. It makes me laugh even trying to say it now. But so the first time I got to meet Poppy, it was in a coffee shop, a public coffee shop in town, and it had to be supervised by a social worker. And so this little cute redhead, I think she was 6 years old, she sits down at a table with me, and I sit down with her, and I said, "Hi, Poppy. I just wanted to say hello and get to know you." And she doesn't know why. She doesn't know who I am. And we're talking, and we're coloring on a coloring book, and I'm, just talking about things you would say to a child that young. And it was going very well. So I said, what did my mom say to me when I was 6 years old? And so I said to Poppy, "Hey, Poppy, have you ever had a wet willy stuck in your ear?" And now I didn't know in Ireland that a willy is a penis. So what Poppy heard was this strange man with an accent wants
I
to
think
pull
I
out
know
his
where this is
penis
going.
and shove it inside my ear.
Oh,
And the social worker, her eyes lit up. She grabbed me by the collar and pulled me to the other side of the room and said, "I'm stopping this right now. Do you know what you just said to your daughter?"
oh
I
my
said, "Yeah,
God.
my mom used to lick her finger and like tickle my ear with it. And, it was a sign of endearment and affection." Because
Yeah.
well, in Ireland, what you just said is you're going to pour water on your penis and stick it in your daughter's ear.
Oh my God. Way to go, Chauncey.
So that was the first interaction I had with my daughter. And thank God I was given a second chance. And that went on for almost a year of meetings like that. And they were hard because a lot of times she didn't want to meet me. And she go, I'm not meeting that man. I don't want to meet him. I don't want to meet him. I don't want to
He's
go
gonna
there.
stick his wet penis in my
Yeah,
ear.
he's the guy that wants to pull out his penis and stick it in my ear. I want to meet him. So,
Oh my God.
yeah. But eventually, now here's the part where she got to know who I am. And this
My
one,
dad's a pervert.
yeah, everything I read on YouTube is true. Everything I saw on the internet's true. So this is how she got to know who I am. So after a year and everything's going pretty good, and she still doesn't know who I am now. So the social worker says, well, why don't we do this? Why don't you write a letter to Poppy explaining who you are? And when I meet Poppy, I'll read her your letter and we'll see how she reacts. So I said, okay. So I wrote her this emotional, oh my, I still have it. It's such an emotional letter explaining who I am and why I came to Ireland and that I wanted to be her dad and how, I met her mom and that, I'm part of her life. And so the social worker reads the letter and Poppy stops and she listens and she's sitting on these steps in front of her house and she's listening and she goes, oh, she goes, so that's my dad. That man's my father. And she says, yes. How does that make you feel? And she stopped and she thought for a minute and she said, well, will you do me a favor and tell him that I'm very happy. I'm happy that he came, but that he can go home now because I really wanted an Irish daddy. And I was like, you fucking bitch.
She kicked you in the willy.
Kicked me right in the balls with that. And the social worker said, but don't worry. She goes, she didn't know how to react. And that's that's just being Poppy. And even today we laugh about it, but I was thinking, God damn you, you are my daughter. And
Yeah.
that's how she found out. And then from there, we just built this relationship. And now we've traveled the world together. We've
Yeah.
traveled to every country. We're inseparable. And
I
God,
think that's your next book. It should be called Chasing Poppy.
well, there is a next book, and it's going to be called Monahan Redemption. And it's going to
Okay.
be it's going to be the
Yeah.
whole story. It's coming out hopefully next year. Monahan Redemption. Yeah.
That's I tell that story to a lot of people, believe it or not, because it's such an amazing story. And if anybody follows you on your social media, you could see the blast how the evolution of your relationship with
Oh,
Poppy. And now she's actually living with you, correct?
yeah. It lives with me. I'm a solo single dad raising a child by myself, and yeah, wow, it's a lot of work. It's a lot. It's not as you think it's hard when they're 7, 8, and 9, but you don't know anything. When they become teenagers, it's a whole
Well,
nother
I'm
thing.
sure there's a lot of things as a male figure in a 13-year-old's life that you have to answer questions
It's
to that aren't
oh,
exactly
it's not,
easy.
no, but it's just that they're so independent at 13, and they're rebellious and everything, and they're moody and everything is hard. Nothing's easy. Every day is hard, and they rule the nest. When they become teenagers, they're in charge, and they just let you live here. And you just try to navigate, peacefully through the day without getting murdered. That's the best you can do. Is just try to make it to your bed at night and be safe and sound under the covers. And if you did that, you succeeded that day. So
Well, what date is next week? Could be right now when the interview. What date is the book coming out?
I don't have the exact date because we're waiting for final editing approval. Going over it one more time to make sure every comma, every word, everything is exactly as it should be. I don't want to see one single mistake in this book, so I'm being extra careful to go over everything page by page. I think it's 270 pages thick, and like I said, it's
Wow,
72 interviews, Q&A, all in Q&A format. And AJ Benza writes the forward.
wow! You got AJ to write the forward. Well, speaking of forwards,
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me ask.
Yes.
Let me see. I got to look at my book. Who wrote the forward to my book?
Let me see.
Oh, it's
Let me
Chauncey
look at my
Haley
book.
wrote
Let
the
me look at
forward to
my
Gorilla
book.
Parts. Why don't you read a little? Because everybody that reads that is very. It was very heartfelt, and I'm glad I asked you to do the forward to my book because you
Well,
really gave a really awesome, like heartfelt, warm acknowledgement to me, and I appreciate that so much. Why don't you give everybody a little taste of what you wrote in the
well,
forward?
well, Steve, it wasn't very hard. I just said to AI, "Hey, write a forward for
Yeah.
me." I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It was all from my heart. Every word of it was from my heart. But,
Well, I read a little bit. I know it was long in a good way. It's not long where you're like, oh my God, this guy's going on and on. It was,
no,
you said a lot of very nice things, and I
the
appreciate it.
hardest part was the audio. You threw me for a loop when you said, "Oh, I got some bad news." You said first the good news. Thank you so much for that beautiful forward. Now the bad news. You got to record it for me and send
Yeah.
it to me, and from Ireland. And that you don't know how hard. Well, you do know because you did the whole book. I had to do this forward, and that's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life is
Yeah.
reading on a microphone for a book. I can't even
Dude, I had to do
imagine.
18 hours.
I don't know how you did
18
it.
hours of
How did
reading
you
my
do
own
that?
shit. You know how hard that was?
No, I know how hard it is. I don't know how you did it. I really don't.
Because I had Roy McDonald backing me up, and I had to do a good job. He was directing me. Thank God for Roy McDonald. God bless you, Roy. I love you. He he was on me the whole time because if you want to get approved by Audible, it has to be exactly what is in the book. You can't
And, and
improvise or change anything.
and Steve,
And if you do change it, they will reject it. You can't go on Audible.
you and I both aren't known for our auditory skills.
No.
So, you
And
know,
there was a couple of times when you're reading that, for 6 hours a day,
yeah.
and you're reading your own shit, and then all of a sudden, and God bless Jason because he would take my stories and he would add his own little flavor that was basically my voice that he had,
Hmm.
and he'd add some things in there, some of the things that I wouldn't necessarily say, but he made me look like more of less than an idiot, which was great. Why I had Jason peppered in his little things into my story to make me look a little more intelligent than I am. So there
That's
were points
awesome.
where I was reading and I couldn't get past some of the words, and you could hear it, which is kind of funny because I played this on Stuttering John's podcast the other day. I played the clip of me interviewing Charles Grodin, and you could hear my frustration getting past this one line because it probably took like 6 takes, and I was just like, just leave it in there because it's me, and I wanted my personality to come through on the Audible. But you could hear me just like, that's enough. I got through it. Just go.
Well, Steve, you have such a distinct voice. Anybody that was a Stern fan here would know in a second by your voice who you are.
Yeah, that's
So
why I had to do it.
yeah, you had to do it because of you.
Yeah.
Everybody knows who you are, and everybody knows how you sound and how you speak. So you couldn't just have anyone do it. It had to be
It's
you.
it's definitely me, but there were you could hear some, but like in my book, I know there's a couple of spelling errors and grammatical errors, and I wanted to leave that because it's me.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Everybody's like, oh, there's a. I was like, you know what? There were three people that weren't exactly proofreaders, but like people that my friends were. My friend Dana, she's a teacher, and Miss Sharma, God bless Sharma. Like these people were there, like chapter to
Hmm.
chapter. Every time I finished the chapter, a lot of people, didn't pick up on it, or even like the spell check didn't pick up on it. And still, there was. I had a problem when I gave my final copy to Amazon, and there was a really horrible translation period where like there were stories that were beginning stories that weren't the end stories. They took stories that weren't the finished stories. I don't know how it got mixed up, and it was a really hard. I had to go back and change everything to fix it for later editions. But there were stories that didn't come that were the first draft, not the last draft,
Well, you got
and
to do
it was kind
now.
of frustrating. So you definitely have to be on top of that. But
It's hard work. It's hard work, and it's
yeah,
almost impossible to catch everything. But for this book, I'm trying. But what you should do is put out a second edition of your book, Grillo Parts, and in yellow highlight every mistake. Put a highlight next to it so people
yeah.
can buy the edited edition without the corrections, and everybody
Yes.
can see where
Yeah,
something.
no, that's what that's what Ian Halpern, who's a best-selling author, has been helping with that. He said about the 6, 7, 8 month mark, you got to come out with a second edition, sort of like a different version.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, absolutely.
so I
But
think that's a good idea, and I'm going to have to do that. So what? Go ahead. Why don't you read a little bit of the acknowledgement that
I'll
you
start.
so
Yeah,
gracefully
I'll
wrote?
read. I'll read 3 paragraphs. All
Okay.
right. I first became acquainted with Steve Grillo during the mid '90s while working as a New York gospel reporter and publisher of a free penny saver called Stepping Out. At the time, by the way, this is exactly what I had to do for the audio. At the time, Steve and I shared a common bond. We were both punching bags for Howard Stern. It's not true, right? I mean, we both got killed by Howard Stern.
Well, who
I would
didn't?
regularly. It was crazy. I would regularly call into what is at the time was the most popular radio show in broadcast history and spew my outrageous Hollywood news items of the day, usually to what's a my eyes are going usually to a chorus of jeers. For the record, one quickly developed a rock hard emotional shell if you want to continually step into the merciless world of the Howard Stern show. Steve, on the other hand, was on a much different radio ride. The lovable, painfully anxious young man known simply as Grillo had a first class seat to what most of America could only dream of. I added occasional content, but Steve became a pop culture icon as he quickly morphed into the most famous intern in history. There, it's
It's
true.
very
It's
true.
true.
Well, there was one point. I think it was early on when I was. I must have been early 2000s. It was one of my first trips to Vegas, and I went to a Benihana, and who was sitting at the table next to me was Monica Lewinsky, and I wanted to say like that two. I was like, I have very little ego, but I was going to say that two of the most famous interns ever are sitting in the same restaurant.
Yeah, that's actually. You know what? That would have been a great selfie, a photo op with the two of you,
Yeah. Oh,
the two
yeah.
most famous
And she's
interns in
looking hot
history.
these days.
I was attracted to her even when she was pudgy. I always was attracted to her. Still am.
Yeah. Well, she's got mad skills.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That doesn't bother me. I find her story exciting.
Yeah.
So, but
Well,
but
everybody, it's Rebels, Rockers, and Icons. 30 years of music Q&A interviews by the famous Chauncey Hayden, the infamous, famous Chauncey Hayden. The book's going to be coming out sometime soon. I will
soon.
make another post when it does come out just to back you guys up. But if you're into music and knowing there's a huge laundry list of very famous musicians in this book that are candid interviews on top of the fact that some of them made to the paper, some of them didn't make it to the paper, but they're full interviews of rebels, rockers, and icons Chauncey has acquired over the past 30 years. And they're in this awesome, wonderful book that it's going to be available on Amazon, correct?
Amazon, and I'll tell you one last funny story from the book that if you could share. Willie Nelson. So I interviewed him on his tour bus, and the tour bus is enclosed and like small, and the first thing
Got
he
hot
does is
boxed.
yeah, he lights up a joint and like a cigar, and he starts smoking it, and I'm sitting across from him in this little table inside this bus, and within I'd say half hour, I couldn't I couldn't get up. I couldn't stand up. I went to end the interview and I just started trailing off and fell over onto the floor of the bus. And Willie Nelson had to put me to bed in the bus.
That's
I
awesome.
I got I got so high and I wasn't smoking. It was the smoke coming out of Willie Nelson that got me so high that I literally couldn't even move my feet, my mouth. Everything was just numb. And Willie Nelson had to put me to bed after the interview and let me take a nap in his bus.
That's so sweet.
And
My
that
Willie
that's in the
Nelson
interview.
story is my Willie Nelson story is kind of I guess timely, it's appropriate, not timely appropriate, but it's timely and appropriate. He was everybody knows that Howard had this big birthday bash every year in January. It was a to support his ego, and B, it was more of like a
For the
gift to the people
advertisers.
that sponsored the
Yeah.
show, that spent millions of dollars, advertising on his show. It was a little thank you from the radio station. They got to go to a big breakfast. Howard did a live broadcast, and it was
Hmm.
always a time where they had some celebrity that would never come on the show. Or that wouldn't do the show, like David Bowie performed live. He had
Yeah.
like just people that were regular guests. It was a huge, huge event every year. And one year we had it at the Plaza Hotel, which at that time was owned by Donald Trump, our
Hmm.
president, our very beautiful, wonderful president. He was there, and Willie Nelson performed and was a guest. And so it was separated. One side was like the sponsors, and the other side was the celebrities. And Willie Nelson decided at that point to light up a joint, which is what Willie Nelson does.
That's what he
And of
does.
course, what he did was he filled the whole ballroom with marijuana smoke.
Yes.
And our president is anti-drug. and
Threw him out.
he was across the room. And when I was standing by Willie's table because I was hoping that I got caught in the rotation. You know what I'm saying? And I was working. I had the headphones on. I was running around escorting guests back and
You
forth.
just had to be in the room, Steve. You didn't have to be in the rotation. Just
Yeah,
in the room.
well, our president came running over, red faced, and started screaming at Willie Nelson, rightfully so, not for nothing. This is the goddamn Plaza Hotel.
Yeah, yeah.
This isn't a back alley. And he proceeded to start screaming at Willie Nelson, "How dare you smoke drugs in my ballroom? This is my goddamn hotel. Who the hell? I don't give a shit who you are. You put that fucking thing out right now." And Willie Nelson did possibly one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh
He took
no.
one more hit,
Blew it in his face.
blew it, not in his face.
Yeah.
He just blew it up in the air, looked at the Don, and he put it out on the tablecloth. It went like this. Like, what are you going to do? Throw Willie Nelson out? I don't think so. But
No,
yeah, I
Willie-
watched Trump throw a fit at Willie Nelson. You know, the guy, it's his spot. I'm pretty sure that smoking was still legal at that time indoors.
just not pot.
Just
Yet.
yeah, just not a giant spliff.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
that
my
was
Willie
Willie.
Nelson story with our president. Real quick,
Yeah.
how's things going on in Ireland? Because when I was there and I was not Galway, I was in Galway, and there was a hotel there. And my
Mhm.
friend, I think it happened like a month before. My friend Tara said that overnight they brought in like 30 Somali men and put them in the hotel.
Mhm.
All men.
Yeah.
And
Ireland's lost. Ireland's lost. You would be hard pressed to find an Irish person in Dublin today. Like I had friends come over and they were staying in Dublin and they said, "Where are all the Irish people? There's no
Dirty
Irish
Dublin.
people here." It's what we call Ireland now is New Africa. They've imported. God, I don't know how many.
Who's in charge over there?
It's a very woke, very, very woke liberal government, very anti-Semitic, hate Jews, love terrorists, love third world African countries and Middle Eastern countries. So what they've done, they brought in all the Gaza people, all the Africans from Nigeria and Somalia, and the problem is Ireland is only a country with 5 million people, so it's not like America where you can absorb mass illegal
it's
immigration.
not big. It's an island.
No, and what they do, they ship them to all the towns, and so all
I
witnessed it.
The town that got up and surrounded the hotel, and they had to move them.
Yeah,
like these are horny, of age men that they're known for raping their women.
The crime has gone way up here. Violence way up. Things that Ireland never
But when
experienced
they're
before.
arresting regular citizens for shit that they say on X,
Yeah,
and they're not arresting people for raping their own women.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story.
It's like you can't touch them. You're not allowed to touch them or say anything bad about them. What the fuck is going on, bro?
Yeah, there's a Middle Eastern population too here that opens up all the vape shops, and the vaping is disgusting. And they sell to underage kids here. They don't care how old you are. So
yeah.
I had an experience where the local vape shop sold a vape to my daughter's friend who's 12. And I called the police, they call them guards here, and they said there's something we can do about it. We don't enforce it. It's not a law we enforce here. I said, all right, time for some street justice. And I went into the vape shop, grabbed the guy by his neck, threw him against the wall, pinned his Adam's apple into the back of his neck, and said, if he ever sells another vape to an underage kid again, it'll be a different kind of meeting than this one. And I said, and you're not going to like what's going to happen after this. And so he and I had a very, as I said on Facebook, impassioned conversation. And I don't think he'll be selling underage vapes anymore. But it's what's happened to Ireland is very, very sad, very, very, very sad.
Is there any like rebellion? Like, you're right on Northern Ireland, the IRA. Are people like slowly behind the doors getting together and being like, "Yo, we can't let this happen"?
Not even behind the doors. We now have some groups that are posting on X that are out in the open saying we're going to take care of this ourselves. Up in Northern Ireland, there were two immigrants who raped a 14-year-old Irish girl, and the local town people burnt down the entire block of immigrants. The entire block's homes were
Good,
burnt to the ground. So
good.
yeah, the Irish are known for taking care of things themselves, and we have a lot of fields here. We call them bogs, and once you've been disappeared into a bog, you're just you're fertilizer. You go down into the earth and never
Your
to be
sheep food.
seen. So yeah, so I think eventually Ireland will take care of its own to get back to normal, and
But
hopefully
all of Europe, like, what is up with England? Like, I
England's
don't get the
gone.
fact that they're imprisoning regular or everyday people for expressing their opinions on
Yeah,
social media. They're putting them in jail for
they
like
they,
6 to 9 months.
they actually.
Why aren't they putting these other people in jail or getting them the hell out of England? Like, what's
I've
going
been
on? Like, the
to.
pussification of the world is happening, and these Islamic terrorists are just
Yeah.
taking over. I don't get it.
I've been to Turkey. I've been to Istanbul, Turkey. And if you go to England now, you wouldn't know the difference between Istanbul, Turkey, and London. It's basically the same city. You would
London has
never know the
fallen.
difference. Yeah, and Ireland's right behind it. And it's sad. It breaks my heart. I'm only here for 4 more years. When Bobby turns 18, I'm out. I'm out.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm not staying here. I would never stay here. But
Well,
I'm here. I'm here to be
where
done.
could you run now? You can't run back over here. It's not any better. Look what happened.
Florida, no,
What's going on in
Florida.
New York right now? It's pathetic.
I would listen. I'll go to Naples, Florida. I'll go Sarasota, anywhere south of Sarasota, right? Marco Island, any one of those towns will be my future when I leave Ireland. And I'm going to have a house with a pool by the ocean and a boat, and that's how. And I'll golf, and that will be the end of my days. That's how I'll phase
Wow.
myself out.
And is Poppy coming with you?
Yeah, well, she gets free college. I'm a disabled vet,
Yeah.
and her college is paid for by the VA. So I'm hoping when she graduates from school here that she'll take advantage of that and come to America to go to school somewhere in Florida, hopefully, and she can stay with me. And we'll see how it goes. It's 4 more years away, but
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see how it
Oh,
goes.
hopefully, yeah, you'll be able to make it to the 4 more years. This place doesn't like
Oh my God,
shit the
yeah,
bed.
yeah. It's terrible, terrible.
All right, Chaunce. Well,
On that note,
I
on that
you,
positive note.
yeah.
Buy my
On
book.
that note, here we are. We're here promoting Chauncey's brand new book. Take a look at it. Wait, I'm going to play you got the fancy one here. Look at this.
Poppy
Poppy
Publishing.
Publishing. Rebels, Rockers, and Icons.
There you
30
go.
years. I love that Poppy Publishing. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Is she flattered by that, or she can give
Yes. No, she's the CEO of the company.
nice? I love it.
Yeah. She's the
Oh,
boss.
President Poppy.
It's her world. I just live in it.
No kidding. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I like this whole thing, starting this back up. I had it going for so long and I stopped it cold because it just got stale doing it from home. And I lost the studio that I was doing it in after COVID. And it just didn't feel the same. And now everybody else has got their crappy shows that they're doing from the house. And I didn't want to do it until I can find someplace like here. This is a great opportunity.
Vegas, right?
By
Vegas.
Richard Frinzi. There's going to be another show on my podcast called on my network called Owning Your Future. It's really Richard's network. He's been gracious enough to fly me out here. He's going to be talking about owning your future financially. He's a financial genius. He's going to have a show on here. We're developing it. It's going to be ready for after the new year, but he wanted me to start this back up and get a little energy into the whole thing. So when he jumps on, there's people paying attention, because you really need to pay attention to Richard and what he has to say, because he's helping people get their finances in order.
Ask him. I want to call in, ask him about annuities. All my money's in annuities right now, so I can have a nice chat with him about that.
But Chaunce, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. Hope I didn't disappoint.
Tell Poppy that the American said hello.
I will.
I love you, Chauncey.
Take care, man.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye. Take care.